Okay, question 4, we're doing a video on each of the paper 2 reading questions. All the rest should be on in this playlist. So this is going to be on an extract from Touching the Void. Again, I'll put the link to this in the comment section on the video. So an example of a question 4 would be, how well do you think Joe Simpson catches his feelings about the situation he finds himself in? So we're looking about what you think in the text. You should comment on what his feelings are, how well you think the writer makes it clear. So basically this question is looking for you to say, what does the writer say and how he says it? And like I said earlier, it's focused on your response. So it says, how well do you think? So you're talking about your own opinion. Okay, so the key info for question 4, it's 10 marks, so you're looking at 13 to 15 minutes. You're trying to make maybe sort of 5 PEs, but trying to use 6 to 8 quotes. Start each PE with I think, I feel. Remember what the question is about. The question said, how well do you think? So for I think, I feel, just down at the bottom of the screen here, it could be worded in 2 ways, this question. How well do you think the writer something? And what do you think and feel about the writer's view? So it's slightly different, but generally, it's asking your opinion. I put those 2 examples because it can be worded in 2 different ways. So don't stress or don't panic if it's written in a slightly different way. You know question 4 and paper 2 will be asking for your opinion about something in the text. Like I said, question 4 is very much like question 2. So remember question 2 would be, for example, how does the writer make it tense and exciting? It's pretty much a similar question, but you just need to give your own opinion as well. You must time manage, so for lower mark questions we're looking at 3 to 4 minutes, and for any 10 mark question in the exam we're looking at 13 to 15 minutes. Track through the text, so if we're looking at 6 quotes for example, don't just do 6 quotes from the top 2 paragraphs, do 2 from the start, 2 from the middle and 2 from the end, to show the examiner that we've read the whole text, but also to send to the examiner which we can comment on changing a character, and I'll talk about that in a second. Also write your answers from top to bottom, so don't just pick a quote from the bottom and do that as your top PE, try to do it in order through the text. So key things to remember this question. So asking for your views, do you agree? Really importantly, you're going to say you do agree basically. They're not going to pick, the exam board are not going to pick an exam question or a writer they don't think is very good. So generally say you agree and say the writer is successful. Reference the question in the first line of your answer. So for example, this question was about is Captain Scott successful at getting across how much fun he had? And I would put, I think that Captain Scott is successful. Okay, and like I said, it's easy to try and agree with the question, say that the writer is successful whenever what the question is. Okay, so we've talked about the quotes, tracking through the text. So we want to zoom into, when we're looking at our quotes, we're not looking, I don't want you to write whole sentences, we're just looking to zoom in and focus and analyse on 1 or 2 word quotes. So this question is looking at where a writer deliberately, so on purpose, uses words to achieve a special effect, and then you're going to analyse those words and use them in your answer. So for example, this is the text from Touching the Void. I'm going to zoom in on the word torture. He says there was no need for this torture. There's no need for the torture. I'm going to zoom in on the word torture and say, why is the writer use that? What feelings is he trying to get across? So what do we think about when we think about torture? A little image there to maybe demonstrate. So I would say words that come to mind when we think about torture are agony, punishment, power, pain. Remember the question is, how well do you think Joe Simpson captures his feelings? So what feelings is Joe Simpson getting over? What feelings is he feeling? They've used the word torture, so then it suggests to the reader that he is feeling that he's in agony, that he's being punished, that he's the power and he's in pain. Okay, so this is the structure I would use for this question. I think, I feel, remember I'm linking back to the question. I feel the writer, insert link to question, so for in this case it would be, I feel the writer captures his feelings successfully by using the phrase, put in your quote, and then do your explanation. So this suggests, so say what feelings Joe Simpson has and how he's got them across. So let's look at an example, the one torture. I think, remember, my opinion, I think the writer successfully shows his pain by using the phrase torture. This suggests Joe is in agony and feeling punished by the situation. So I've put I think or I feel. I've said the writer is successful, like we should do in this question. I've zoomed in on a 1 or 2 word quote, and then I've explained why that word's been used. So why has torture been used? Think of the connotations we came up with a minute ago. Think of the words we linked. We linked with agony and punishment, didn't we? So I put them into my explanation. Okay, another one we could have is he said that the weather pounced on him in the text. So I feel Simpson successfully let the reader know how much pain he is in with the phrase pounced. Again, I've put I feel, again I've put he's successful, and again I've put a one-word quote. So I'm going to zoom in into the quote and say what feelings Joe feels and how that's come across. So this suggests to the reader that Joe is being attacked, because that's what the word pounce means, isn't it? Pounce means someone attacks you quickly by sleep in a violent and aggressive manner. Okay, one more time. This is about the quote was the rope lashed violently in his face. So what feelings do we see? Again, Joe is successful in showing how much he has suffered with when the rope lashed violently on his face. So the rope lashed violently, so it's a 3-word quote, but I'm going to zoom in on the word lashed. The verb lashed suggests the rope was almost whipping, because that's what lashed means. The verb lashed suggests the rope was almost whipping and punishing him. The reader feels Joe is a victim in survival against the war. So I didn't have to add that last bit, but I've just talked about the effect on the reader. Remember, you don't have to say the verb lashed. If you're unsure if it's a verb or an adjective or whatever, don't say it. Just say the word. So the word lashed suggests. So again, key little revision then. Summary, question 4 key info. It's 10 marks, 13 to 15 minutes. 5 PEs, but try to do 6 to 8 quotes. Start each PE with I think, I feel, and remember it's worded in 2 different ways. And then summary of the whole reading exam. You must time manage. Try to leave a 1-line gap between all your PEs so it's clear for the examiner, and only say if it's a verb, noun, adjective, or whatever if you're pretty sure you're right.